Let me read to you a passage from the second chapter of St. Luke's Gospel, verses 15 to 20. It's the Gospel for Christmas Day, the Mass at dawn. St. Luke writes, "When the angels went away from them to heaven, the shepherds said to one another, 'Let us go then to Bethlehem to see this thing that has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us.' So they went in haste and found Mary and Joseph and the infant lying in the manger. When they saw this, they made known the message that had been told them about this child. All who heard it were amazed by what they had been told by the shepherds. And Mary kept all these things, reflecting on them in her heart. Then the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen, just as it had been told to them." That's from Luke chapter 2, verses 15 to 20. It's the Gospel for the Christmas Day Mass at dawn. What does it suggest to us? Well, when we think of the virtual universality of belief in God, or at least in higher powers, it is a daring step indeed for someone to declare himself an out-and-out atheist, rejecting the possibility of such higher powers beyond the world. From ancient times to our own, man has been convinced of the reality of the divine, however varied and defective might have been his image and conception of it. But now, an intriguing feature of this phenomenon of religion in human history is that, at its most sophisticated, man's conception of God is of one who is hidden. There are countless signs of God available for the one looking for him, but God is not manifest to us, and so he can be ignored. God is certainly not evident, and a person who denies the very existence of God has taken a tragic step, but it is not a blatantly self-contradictory one. He can make a case out for his position, however unconvincing it is for mankind generally. A serious problem appears when an entire culture becomes imbued with agnostic and atheistic ideas, because such a culture can lodge in people's minds assumptions that incline them to discount religion and to be suspicious of faith in God. That is the problem of our contemporary public culture. I was recently talking to a young man, and he said to me that while he can see and touch and feel the things he deals with every day, he cannot see and touch God. So he has difficulty believing in him, especially inasmuch as he knows others who do not believe in him either. So this atheism seems to him to be plausible. Now, while it is not plausible, and indeed while it is tragic, it is not absurd. While God is a reality and is very knowable, he is nevertheless hidden. He is not evident. Modern man's agnosticism and atheism is seen to be a tremendous anomaly when we set it against the history of civilizations and cultures. There are abundant reasons supporting an unshakable belief in God, and it is for this reason that belief in God and religion generally is so universal. For all sorts of reasons, mankind is characteristically quite convinced of the divine, however poorly he might imagine and conceive it. The most obvious sign of the divine is, creation. Our world speaks of God. It speaks of his immensity, his pure power, his intelligence, his utter necessity, his perfection. If we look out on the stars, if we consider the earth and its immense fruitfulness, if we consider the panorama contained in the tiniest atom, all this signals the reality of a God we cannot adequately imagine. But let us once again note that the great being we know to be our Creator is hidden. We do not see or hear or touch him. How is this to be interpreted? If all we had was the world and the universe to go on, if that's all we had to go on, we could not tell. We would not know why God is so hidden. He can be ignored, but to our peril. He can be forgotten, flouted, disobeyed. He is ever so close. He is nearer to us than we are to ourselves, but he is hidden. We are completely under his gaze, but he is hidden. Indeed, I tend to think that if all we had to go on was the world around us, not many of us would come to a knowledge of the true God. So much points to him, but nevertheless he is hidden. God has not only given such striking signs of himself in creation, he has entered our history to redeem mankind from sin and to give him a share in his own divine life. He made himself known to Abraham, to Isaac and to Jacob, to Moses and to the prophets, and through them to his chosen people Israel. He called them to himself to be his people, and he established a special covenant with them. They would be his people, and he would be their God, and he would dwell with them. But again, he was somewhat hidden. He made his presence manifest, but only rarely was it very manifest, and those occasions were meant to be held in the memory of the people constantly, enabling them to interpret his strong but hidden action. He did not call to himself a famous and prominent people, such as the Greeks or the Romans. Rather, he took to himself a backwater people, a nobody on the world stage. That is to say, he chose to be somewhat hidden. And now the high point of his saving action among men arrived when he became man. The Word was made flesh, and he dwelt among us, and we read the story of his birth in the gospel. But again, he is now hidden from the gaze of the world. He is born in a stable, away from the limelight, unknown to the great. He has come among us as a man. He, the great God, did not cling to his glory as God, but became as men are, and humbler still, even to death on a cross. Our God of glory is a hidden God, and he remains hidden still in his most precious presence among us, his presence in the Eucharist. All this is to say that in the plan of God, union with him will depend not on sight, but on an active faith. Faith is the gift we have been given, and we must live according to it. We are called to be like Mary and Joseph and the shepherds who recognized in the child the great, the infinite, and yet the hidden God. Jesus our Lord invited us to come to him and to learn from him, for he is meek and humble of heart. That is what God is like. He is meek and humble, and is content to give us abundant signs of his reality and his powerful action if we have the faith to see him. But he remains hidden. The humble child in the unknown manger encapsulates this pattern of God's dealings with us. He awaits our loving adoration and will not impose himself. Let us recognize in the Christ child our God who has come to save us. Let us promise to give him our faith and never to take it back, though he remains hidden from sight. If we do this, he will come to us and in his own way show himself to us, making each of us his dwelling place, now and hereafter.